So I'm on vacation, right? And I randomly get an email from my boss, says he wants me to do some work, wants me to finish up a couple projects. And I'm like, you know what? It's time for a mock draft. So I fired up this mock draft, found this lobby, and ended up getting the second pick. Something I haven't tried yet. This is a 10-team PPR league, so I know my most recent 10-team league kind of popped off. I was trying to fuck with OBS and get it working, so that's why it's already kind of off and running. Went with Justin Jefferson. You see the first suit goes with Bijan. A little sus, a little crazy. Could be the league taco. I don't know. So I go with Jefferson on my way back around. Here I'm thinking, I want to go two wide receivers. I typically want to start these full point PPR leagues with two wide receivers, three wide receivers, even depending on who can fall. And yeah, that's my thoughts there. You see some of the other picks goes typically as you would see Eckler, CMC, Chase after me, Cup, Tyreek. Here's where I get a little bit tilted because I really wanted to get Olave or Waddle as my third guy. So I got a little bit boosted here, and I didn't want to go for a boost pivot and pivot to like running back or quarterback. So I end up looking over at wide receivers. I end up taking T Higgins because in my last video I took DK over Higgins and Smith, and I got absolutely decimated in the comments section. People were like, how do you possibly have DK Metcalf ranked above T Higgins and Smith?" I basically just I think DK Metcalf is just a little bit safer as like a potentially the alpha on his team, and we don't know. Could still be Lockett, but Devontae Smith is the clear number two, and so is T Higgins, right? And yeah, I mean, you can make arguments either way. Joe Burrow is the guy throwing to Higgins, so you could say that that should close that gap. But I don't know. It's just DK Metcalf seems like that like big play type guy that I kind of want. So when you get a guy like Adams and Jefferson who are both like possession receivers, why not go for somebody who can make big plays? But in this draft, I ended up going with Higgins. Let's to switch it up a little bit. And I think that's a pretty nice start. If T Higgins is my wide receiver three in a full point PPR, I think you're feeling pretty nice. You see a nice little run of running backs here, which is what you typically don't like to see if you do go wide receiver early. You want to see wide receiver runs after you've already finished making your wide receiver run. So, the hope is that some good RB value falls to me. And we don't know. We don't know if that's going to be the case. You see Brees Hall, Devontae Smith. Yeah, I mean, these rounds go to as typical as you'd see. I really do think that you really want to hit on your first two picks. Like, it's just so important to not get a unproductive player in your first couple rounds. I mean, those are like the stalwarts, the stable players of your team, the guys that should get you, predictive and consistent production always. Um, Looking at some of these picks, just to point out some of the guys that I kind of want to stay away from. I definitely don't want to be taking Mark Andrews just at his cost. There's a couple guys that go like 2, 3, or even 4 rounds later that I think could outscore him. I just I don't know, man. Mark Andrews is great. I think he is the consensus like number two tight end. Don't get me wrong, just at cost. Like there's a world in which Dallas Goedert, you can get in like I think the fifth round, outscores him. So that's a dude I'd stay away from. I'd stay away from Ramondre Stevenson just because of how everybody is gassing him up and thinking he's going to be a top five RB. Now, that could be completely dumb from me. It definitely could be. I just think New England Patriots running backs are typically dudes that I like to stay away from. As long as Belichick's in town and he just will randomly give, a third stringer just fucking 20 carries one game. It's just, I don't like it. So here I start looking at RB. See here, I'm shifting through. I see Aaron Jones and ETN on the board. I can't remember who I pick here. I go with ETN. Um, so here's my thinking, right? In a full point PPR, you would think that ETN wouldn't be a good pick here, but the reason I like ETN is because he kind of reminds me of Nick Chubb. He's got all the measurables, right, to be like a very good three down back. Uh, yes, he doesn't get a lot of pass catching work, especially with Tank Bigsby getting so much hype in training camp. But I do think that him as a traditional two down back could be enough. Like I do think he can get in the double digit touchdowns. I do think he could be a high rushing yard, high touchdown type guy, the same way Jonathan Taylor was. And then coming back around, it would have been nice if Aaron Jones fell to me, but since he didn't, I start looking back at wide receiver. I see that there's not really anyone that I like on this list, but I end up taking Debo. So my thoughts here are this. I know Debo Samuel is bad in PPR. I know he's not a guy that's going to get you a lot of targets, a lot of receptions, but Debo Samuel is going to get you big plays. So my pick is coming back around, and I probably want to go RB here, and I do go RB. I end up taking J.K. Dobbins, who I think could be a top 12 running back, assuming he gets most of the work there. We'll see how they use Gus Edwards. I don't think they'll be using him too much. Gus is just like old news. He's just an old dude. He gets injured almost every season. It should be prime time for J.K. Dobbins to really take over that backfield. So start to look over at quarterback and see if there's any value. Switch over to tight end. I think this is probably the time. I see that Dallas Goedert's still on the board, so I think it's probably going to be the pick. As I mentioned, getting Dallas Goedert in the 7th round versus Mark Andrews in the early third round, it just feels so much better to me, especially in a full point PPR. Like Mark Andrews probably might have more yardage, probably might have more touchdowns, but how much more? That's the question, right? How many touchdowns and targets are there to go around on the Ravens, and how many will end up in Mark Andrews' lap? With so many other wide receivers, I know they don't really have any great commanding wide receivers that are going to command targets, so it could be Andrews as the leader of that pack. I still think that the offense as a whole, there's just too many mouths to feed. Everybody's kind of just decent on that team, and Dallas Goedert, 7th round, cannot complain. I got a little piece of that Philadelphia offense, which could be a top offense again this season. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. Some guys that I don't like in these ranges, I definitely don't like Mike Williams. I don't like Ayuk. I really don't like a lot of wide receivers in this range, which is why I like to go wide receiver early, because I don't like DJ Moore. I don't like Njigba. I do like Godwin. I just don't like his situation, right? Like all these receivers are fantastic receivers. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like their situations. So you see a little running back run go off here. A little bit sad. It would have been nice to get any 3 of those guys that just got taken. Looking up the board, Jefferson, Adams, Higgins. What a nice start. I do think Etienne and Dobbins aren't the ideal PPR backs that you'd want. But when you do punt the position to the mid rounds, you're not going to get those high end receiving running backs. And I know people in the comments might already blast me and say, "Dude, you're RB light." Yeah, that's the strategy. That's why it's a full point PPR league, right? I'm going wide receiver heavy early, so just throw the comments out already so that I can just auto respond with that. We see Michael Pittman. That would have been a nice pick if he fell to me. Michael Pittman should still be the alpha there on a understandably a low pass offense, but he's there should still be enough meat on that bone. Pacheco and Montgomery go right before my pick, so I end up going Tua here. So Tua is another one of those guys that I think he's a great sleeper quarterback. I think the offense as a whole is going to be great with Mike McDaniel. Tua showed that he can, make all those deep throws, and he's got probably the two best wide receivers. The best duo wide receiver group. So good news if he could just stay healthy. And then back around, I take Alvin Kamara, who just in the the 9th round? 9th round Kamara. Even if he gets suspended for 4 to 6 games, and he comes back, you end up getting who he could be. I mean, he could perform as a top 3, right? We've seen him as a top 3, and he's not even that old. He's only, I think, 27. But even if he's top 15, you get him in the 9th round, you can't complain. He'll just be riding my bench or IR spot if you could put suspended players in IR. So yeah, I think that's a solid pick. I mean, if it's a wasted pick and he ends up doing nothing, that's fine, right? It's a 9th round pick. How often do your 9th round picks end up doing jack fuck for you anyway? You just got a little glance at me opening OBS, see my dumb face, and what are we thinking here? What's my team looking like? It looks like a pretty solid, balanced team. filling out my roster. You can't really see the roster there in the bottom right, but as soon as my dumbass scrolls up, you'll be able to see I have 3 RBs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a quarterback. I have 4 wide receivers, sorry, including Debo. So probably want to get some wide receivers here to be able to interchange between Debo and that other guy, just because of how. Oh my God, Elijah Moore sniped, dude. I remember this. I would have taken Elijah Moore there. It looks like he's going to be super involved and super productive for Cleveland. As much as I dislike Deshaun, I ended up going with Brian Robinson. He's like that last RB, alpha RB for his team. So why not get him? Just a little RB depth, assuming Kamara might be useless for me. You want to have some depth in that event. I ended up going Michael Thomas as just like a possession, high target wide receiver. We'll see. I think Olave is going to suck up most targets, and Michael Thomas will definitely be phased out slowly. They don't see him as their future, so why would they? But, he could have those flash weeks where he pops off for, a touchdown and 7 receptions or something like that. Like, I can see that in the cards. He's just still so talented, right? He's gonna dominate the short route, intermediate route, um, zone, while Olave takes a lot of like the vertical routes, I would assume. Devon A-Chain is another really good pick late. He's a lotto ticket. At this point in the draft, you want to try to get lotto tickets. These are the guys that are like the has-beens, the Robert. I mean, not this year, but in previous years, the Robert Woodses of the world. You know, the guys who maybe were productive and are starting to get old. These are like the rounds. Or you go for you go for rookies, you go for dudes who could be lotto tickets. If like Kenneth Walker last year, if the dude in front of him gets injured, you're fucking feeling nice. You're feeling real nice about that. But yeah, the Khalil Herberts of the world. Um, yeah, what am I doing here? Why am I not scrolling down? I'm probably talking about why I wouldn't take Deontay Johnson. Michael Pittman's a great pick. Christian Kirk's a great pick. It's back to my pick now. I look over at wide receiver. I see Odell. I see that I don't have any Ravens, so I take Odell. Just get a little piece of that offense, right? You're going to hate starting him because it's going to be like a different dude every week. Bateman would have been nice if you fell to me, because I think Bateman is a little more of a safe pick there. And it's still my pick, so I pretty much play RB and wide receiver carousel. I see Kendry Miller still on the board. It's my last pick of the draft. Kendry Miller acts as a Kamara handcuff, as well as maybe some standalone value while Kamara's suspended. Those are my thoughts. That's the draft. Nothing too fancy, nothing too special. We're going to have a look at my total team here in a second. But yeah, the general strategy, guys, late rounds, get lotto tickets, get handcuffs, get guys that have standalone value, but could be really good if they were to get, opportunity. So let's look at my team. I got Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Higgins to start it off. That's great. Fantastic start, in my opinion. I would have loved Olave or Waddle instead of Higgins. Olave, ideally, man, because he's going to be the alpha there for sure. He's got like top 5 upside for sure. And then go with Etienne as my RB1, J.K. Dobbins as my RB2, and Deebo Samuel as one of my flex plays. Goddard and Tua, I think they're going to be serviceable. Goddard is, a tier 2 tight end, so you can't complain there. And a full point PPR, I think that's good. Tua Tagovailoa as my QB. I think he should be okay, should be decent. I don't imagine him having the ability to be in like the top 3, which is unfortunate, but I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be like the QB 7 on the season. And I think that's enough for my team. You just need someone to not, shit the bed for you, essentially. Quarterback, like when you get those guys that hyper carry, like the Lamar Jacksons in his MVP season, like you probably win your league, right? But yeah, like you try to make up that value elsewhere at wide receiver. The hope is that Devontae and Jefferson can offset, the inconsistency that QBs often have. Like even Josh Allen last year, right? He was fantastic, and then what happens in the fucking championship? Doesn't even finish the game. Game ends because of a heart attack. Like even the best QBs, the number 1 QBs, still have off weeks, and you only start one of them. So when your QB has an off week, you probably lose the week. While if one of your wide receivers is an off week, hopefully you can make up those points elsewhere. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I essentially just fill out the roster with dudes who could have value in the later rounds. My team looks like the fucking 2000 2018 All-Star team with fucking Michael Thomas, Odell, Alvin Kamara, yeah, Devontae Adams. Well, that's the draft. Hope you guys liked the video. Hope you liked everything all the analysis, all the commentary. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. If you are still here, why don't you go ahead and give me a subscribe, give me a follow, and give me your comments. And I'll talk to you guys next time.